half the people like Trump, half the people don't like Trump. But our politicians, our premier, which is our governor, Doug Ford, there's no one wants to have a deal more than him. But
So
listen, sit back and take it, right?
If
we shouldn't be treated that way. We shouldn't be treated that way. We shouldn't have to put those frigging commercials on the World Series.
Why did that? I mean,
look what you made me do. I am tired of this kind of behavior, and I just have to call it out. Ladies and gents, welcome back. This is gonna be a bit of a different episode. I wanted to address a guest that was on the Timcast panel just the other day. So if you guys follow Tim Pool, American journalist, pundit, talks about a lot of issues, has a lot of guests on, and this guy, whoever this guy is, came on the show and started like representing Canada. And this just drives me absolutely bonkers. The guy here, his name's Mark Grimes. He's CEO of MGA Intel Logistics. Who the hell is he? Like, why is he being invited on? Apparently he's a former Toronto City Councillor, Commissioner, TSE floor trader, stock boy from Woolsworth. That's some Canadiana nostalgia crap that he's put in his profile. But realistically, what was he there on Timcast to do? Before we get into some of the clips of what he's saying, I want to point something out, and this is right out of the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Personality Disorders. That's right. The narcissistic personality disorder is something I think Canada has. I think Canada has this narcissistic personality disorder because we see this often be brought up, and it's not just from this guy, but I want to point it out from this guy because it happens all the time. These are two particular things that we see all the time. Recalling favors is a common narcissistic manipulation tactic known as favor sharking, or creating a sense of obligation. Narcissists use this to gain control, induce guilt, and ensure future compliance with them rather than performing genuine acts of kindness. Guilt tripping, or by reminding you of their past generosity. We get this all the time because of what Canada's troops have done in the past, helping militarily with the United States. This guy brings it up many times during the short segment, which is just it's absurd. And then the one we started with at the very beginning there, the narcissistic tactic of involving the phrase "you made me do it." That's right. It's called blame shifting. It's a form of emotional manipulation where the narcissist avoids taking responsibility for their own actions by shifting the fault onto the victim. You may have heard the common phrases here. If you wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have done that. Or look at what you made me do. Look at what you made me do. Obviously, in the first clip there, him pointing out that it's because of you that Doug Ford had to make a piece of propaganda, take Ronald Reagan's speech and flip the context so it was out of context, and Tim Pool being perfectly accurate in saying that this is offensive. What you did was offensive, and yeah, Trump was right in shutting down trade in America with America, trade with Canada and America in this circumstance. Now let's get into what this guy had to say. We'll cover a bit of it, and I'm going to point out every time that he actually says this crap and pulls this narcissistic tactic, because it really is shameful. It's shameful, and it makes all Canadians look bad. And believe it, not all Canadians have this crappy Southern Ontario attitude. In fact, this is why a lot of provinces are wanting to separate from Canada, because this is what they're being associated with. Let's get right into it.
Any tariff put on the United States is a tariff on the people, right?
Right out of the gates. No, not the case. Any tariff on the United States puts on other countries is not exactly a tariff on the people of the United States. In fact, what we're seeing now is a lot of revenue being drawn. This has actually been proven false. This has been proven false by the prices in America currently coming down, while tariffs on foreign countries have been going up and up and up and up. In fact, a lot of the companies in these other countries are looking at it like, I gotta eat this because there's still competition in the United States and the prices are still going down, so I'm gonna have to eat the cost. A lot of these manufacturers are looking to move into the United States. I'm looking at you, Ontario, because that's the truth. And we know this Doug Ford fanboy is on about this because the automotive manufacturing is moving back to the United States. And I do say back to the United States because these are American auto manufacturers that came to Canada at a previous time that Canada was a little bit nicer in trade relations. Canada has not been a great actor, and we'll get into that.
And we're better together than apart. That's for sure. Like, you know, and I'm not in the weeds on the tariffs, like in that. But if we're screwing the United States on tariffs, let's sit down and negotiate it.
What does
for the president to say? No, I'm not going to talk to Canada. So I'm not going to talk to them right now. It's ridiculous.
well, why is it ridiculous?
Because like,
What do we
because
need?
he's not the only one playing to his base. We have our governor, Doug Ford, our premier, who is playing to his base. We have our prime minister has to play to his base.
What is playing to your base? Playing to your base is what? Dumping out whiskey because the manufacturer from Canada wanted to take 150 jobs out of Ontario to help the company survive. Like, Doug Ford actually went after a Canadian company, the famous scene of him pouring out the Crown Royal, because they brought a couple of jobs out of Ontario. The company's manufacturer base is out of Manitoba and does a lot of bottling in Ontario and in the United States. But Doug Ford is on his personal vendetta against anybody who does anything in Ontario. This is what the reality is. This guy's masking this, and he doesn't come right out and say it.
We just can't roll over to President Trump.
Sure.
I support a lot of things he's doing, but Canada and U.S. together are much better than being apart.
What does the U.S. need from Canada?
Lumber.
Aluminum, our minerals,
Lumber.
our lumber. It's crazy, and you know, people are getting ticked off in Canada. I said, you know, you may think it's very small, but all the border states, you know, like in Buffalo and Kingston, Niagara Falls, all across the border, across this country, they rely on Canadians coming across. And I cross the border quite a bit, and there is nobody. There's lineups to cross. There's nobody crossing the border. I was talking to somebody in Florida at the TD Bank. I was telling Charlie before we came in here, they're selling their places in Florida. People are just they're really ticked off about what's going on. And that's,
Yeah, so they're stupid. Who cares? They're selling their valuable things in America because they're emotionally wrapped up in all of this. That's not America's fault. That's not America's problem. It's a Canadian problem. And what are you going to do? You're going to buy some more real estate in Canada that's going to blow up in this next bubble burst that's coming? Yeah, tell that to the people that bought condos just a little while ago. Yeah, ask them how their investment's doing. Listen, this idea that Canadians have some sort of like big hit to the American economy is just, it's in your own head. It's not true. Yeah, there are some places that, wow, okay, it would be nice if we had those Canadian customers still coming around. But listen, Canada is a demographic of upwards towards 40 million people spread out across 4,000 kilometers on a borderline. It's not a great demographic for any country to try to do business with. And you're asking, like, people are selling their goods, whatever. Americans will buy them on the cheap if Canadians want to sell them.
listen, you know, it's
Okay.
Canada and the United States have been friends for a very long time, and I go back.
Here it comes.
You guys are all too young for this. The Canadian Caper. Anyone know what the Canadian Caper is?
No.
Back in Tehran in 1979.
Here comes a military story where we did something for you. This is again getting back to that narcissistic tactic of putting this ownership on somebody else where they have to pay you back. Why? Like the fact that the United States protects Canada just by being next to it should be enough for Canadians to stop doing this once and for all. Actually, stop doing this, because he brings this up. It's absurd.
Iran was coming into your embassy, and we took 6 of your embassy workers, hid them in our embassy for 3 months, had them lose their American accents. We worked with the CIA. We came up with this crazy movie, this movie production called Argo.
Yeah.
And we got them out. Right?
Wow, amazing, fantastic. You remember that Chinese balloon that flew over Canada and Canada couldn't do anything about it, and America just came and shot it down and didn't say anything, didn't say tickety boo about you owe us one. You remember that Cessna that flew over Vancouver that was hijacked, and the U.S. went over fighter jets and brought it down? Yeah, that's right. They didn't say tickety boo, but Canadians were saying like, why do you think that you're a sovereign country? It's crazy. You have no military. You can't protect yourself. You bring up these war stories from years and years and years ago, but you do nothing for the United States except bring in trade restrictions that are just absurd.
Well, so we don't need Canada for aluminum. In fact, because of our trade with Canada, we've become dependent on Canada. So I'm in favor of the tariffs.
Fair point.
Estimates are within 10 to 15 years, we can get off of our Canadian dependency for aluminum.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. Don't just turn the tap off, because
See, immediately he's like, well, no. Don't just turn the tap off. We want to keep this dependency going. Tim Pool making a great point, saying if we're going to have these conflicts with you all the time and it's always going to come down to this, why don't we just protect ourselves? Why don't we just make an aluminum business for ourselves in the country?
right now, the tariffs are a tax on the U.S. people. Like it's who's paying for it?
So
Like who's paying for the tariff, Tim? Like the tariffs are on the American people.
If it wasn't hurting the Canadians, then he wouldn't be on the show complaining about it. It's just, again, it's another tactic of blame shifting.
But we're stronger together. And I said, we want America to bring all these manufacturing jobs because we have, the minerals, the
why should the U.S. not develop its own aluminum industry?
Sure. If you did, we would even make Canada stronger too, because you don't have everything you need. We have it.
So what's the argument for the U.S. to say, instead of developing our own aluminum industry, we'll trade with Canada and then have to have these negotiations?
Well, you have to have the negotiations now because there's no trade. Like it's crazy.
And you won't have the negotiations in the future if America takes care of itself. This is, again, you get into circular argumentation here. Tim Pool's making a very good point.
Like
and the problem is we should have never become dependent on Canadian aluminum.
Okay, but that's happened. That has happened.
And now the best thing we can do is incentivize the industrial development in the U.S., which tariffs will help do.
Listen, there's a whole bunch of different tariffs. I'm not going to get into that, but I said Canada and the United States have been are allies for a very long time. We're your best friend, your neighbor, your largest trading partner. Our Ontario alone, like it was like your state. We're like, if we were our own country, we'd be your third largest trading partner behind China and Mexico. It's massive.
The issue I see is that this gives foreign countries influence in our nation. This is a really great example. So pulling up the data, the United States produces around, I think, 18% of its aluminum. And the reason is we've not developed our own industry, which would take 10 to 15 years and $20 to $30 billion to produce American.
Where do you get the raw materials for that?
The United States, we could do it. It would take 20 to 30, 15
Where's the raw
years.
materials to make the aluminum? Where's that coming from?
The United States. In our own internal territories, we could set up the mines.
But where's the aluminum mines in the United States? Where are they?
Not built yet.
But where? Like what state has aluminum?
Well, okay, sure. Let's. Is Canada the only region of the North Americas that have aluminum?
Resource appears.
Yes, he's arguing from a now standpoint, where Tim Pool is arguing into the future. He's saying that America shouldn't sit there and allow Canada to become this pestering nation and do this over and over and over again. Why do we have to keep coming to the table and negotiate with these people that are completely unreasonable when we could just make the industry ourselves? And this guy's trying to argue that America couldn't do it for some reason.
President Trump is talking about Canada. It's ridiculous. You had the Operation Yellow Ribbon also that during 9/11, where all those planes.
Hey, remember that time where we helped you out? Here we go again. Here's another time where we helped you out.
Landed in Gander, Newfoundland. We took 6,000 U.S.
Arkansas.
You remember that time when America protected protected Canada from invasions? Yeah, that happens every day, every single day. And while Canada diminishes their military and they're more concerned about tampons in the men's bathroom than they are about protecting the borders, yeah, that was every day. That's every day. Remember that time that the ships went across the Pacific, and Canadian ships went across Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans and never got raided by pirates? Yeah, that's America doing that every day. I'm sick of Canadians throwing out these specific instances where there was a military help or aid in any way to the United States, and using this as some excuse to just be completely jerks when it comes to trade.
Homes. We put them. The population of Gander is 10,000. We took 6,000 U.S. citizens and put them like we're your number one friend. So you know what? Negotiate hard on the tariffs, but don't be treating Canada like we're some piece of off the street. It's ridiculous and it's uncalled for. But right now we're pushing on a string. I'm not going to talk to Canada on the tariffs right now. That's to me it's childish.
This is childish. This argumentation is childish. It's based in emotion. It's based in narcissistic tactics. Stop doing this, Canadians. Stop doing it.
I support a lot that your president's doing, but I tell you, it's not good for either country.
No, I thought it was like, at first I was like, what's this rhetoric where he's like, we're going to invade Canada, we're going to take over Canada. It's like, dude, first of all, have respect for other humans. Don't talk down like there's some bitch. Like, yo, bro, this is our neighbor. If there is an invasion from China, you better believe Canada. The battle's going to happen in Canada.
Guys. Canada does not mine aluminum ore, bauxite. It imports every single ton from Guinea, Brazil, Australia, and China.
Snap. Isn't that a revelation that took place during this conversation? Well, this guy was saying America needs to rely on Canada. Turns out Canada is just a middleman where all of the materials that aluminum is constructed by, Canada imports them into Canada and then makes aluminum and then ships it to the United States. The United States could do this on their own. This is what a great revelation during this whole thing.
Okay, the United States has Arkansas to mine, but still requires imports beyond that. Why are we dependent on Canada to import from Guinea, Brazil, Australia, or China? We need to crank the tariffs up 10x. This is insanity. We got a middleman with a foreign country for our aluminum when we could be going straight to Brazil. Why don't we just import from Brazil directly?
Part of it's because it's dirty. The production is dirty. You saw East Palestine when they dumped
cut the transportation costs.
But now it's getting sent. This is the biggest problem I've had the whole time, and why I've supported the Trump tariffs. Skateboards is a really great example. And I don't care if you don't care about skateboarding. It's an example of industry.
Okay, so he goes into a great example. I'll leave a link in the description down below. I'd like to leave some of this for everybody to go check out on his channel specifically. He does give a really good example with skateboards and how at the end of the day, they shifted operations to another country, but it costs all this extra in shipping and moving and doing all this stuff just so you get the cheap labor. And then it doesn't end up costing you any less. It's ridiculous. It's an absolute terrible way of putting an industry together, but this is it. And then we get back to the conversation on well, look at what you made me do.
Save money in the long run.
How long is that going to take for that?
10 to 15 years.
10 to 15 years. So in 10 to 15 years, and listen, we probably are too reliant on the United States, but that's 10 to 15 years out. What are you doing right now?
I'm a long-term investment kind of person.
People in the U.S. It's
indeed
on the people, right?
Yep.
So listen.
And this will. How insane is it that Canada imports bauxite? Then the U.S. imports from Canada instead of us importing directly. And so this argument that tariffs are a tax on the people it's a meaningless statement. Mm-hmm. The issue is free trade has been detrimental to the self-sufficiency of every nation that's engaged in it. And now we are wasting a ridiculous amount of fossil fuel energy to ship all of this garbage all over the world for no reason other than creating dependencies. I'm opposed to that. I think we should have our own steel plants, our own aluminum plants. I think that we should have our own skateboard factories, and we should be built. We should have things inside the United States so we can be self-sufficient. The point of the tariffs is to say, if you want this product made by Chinese peasants or from Brazil or whatever, it's going to be more expensive than if people in the United States do it. And so if people want to buy their Temu products, by all means, face your tariff. Or what will happen in the short term is a lot of new investment into new factories in the United States. And within 10 to 15 years, we could replace Canada as the producer of aluminum for the United States. We don't need them.
It's going to take some time.
Indeed, and I don't care how long it takes. I don't see an argument for being dependent and forced into negotiations with another country, especially when you've got Canada in, what was it? Was it Ontario where they're running these commercials attacking Trump and Reagan, using Reagan? I mean, it's offensive. We don't need it.
It is offensive. It's absolutely offensive. And what Doug Ford did was a betrayal. It was a betrayal to the American people by running propaganda that, again, I pointed it out. It was taking what Reagan said, turning it on its head, and making him say something he didn't say, which Reagan was in favor of tariffs, and he was talking about the importance of putting them on Japan at the time. So this is it's unreal.
But Tim, like our politicians are playing to their base, like your president's playing to his base. Like, you know, they just can't roll over and say, oh yeah, you know, like Trump. It's Canada's the same as.
I tell you this.
Half the people like Trump, half the people don't like Trump. But our politicians, our premier, which is our governor, Doug Ford, there's no one wants to have a deal more than him. But
So,
you just can't
listen.
sit back and take it, right?
If
And we shouldn't be treated that way. We shouldn't be treated that way. We shouldn't have to put those friggin' commercials on the World Series.
Look what you made me do. I didn't want to make an ad that was a piece of propaganda, but look what you made me do. I had to do that because of your actions. This is unbelievable. And again, back to that narcissistic tactic of blame shifting. And this is it. It's the narcissistic tactic involves the phrase, you made me do it. Is called blame shifting. It's a form of emotional manipulation where the narcissist avoids taking responsibility for their own actions by shifting the fault onto the victim. Common phrases, look at what you made me do. This is exactly what he just pulled out on the Tim Pool podcast, and this is absolutely ridiculous. And you know, he goes on to talk about how, you know, they tried really hard. They brought down negotiators to Washington, D.C., and the premiers tried to do all this diplomatic work, and it really didn't work out. Well, I'll just tell you one thing. This was the Quebec premier at the time at this trade negotiation summit with all of the premiers of the provinces of Canada. This is what he had to say about supply management.
No, I just want to say a few words on dairy. In Quebec, we are against changing the management of the offer. The reason why we have that is to protect our regions, all right? So we don't give any subsidies to milk producer. So the only thing we do is we manage the offer, and it's a way to protect small farms in all the regions. So for us, it's not negotiable.
It's not negotiable, he says. In fact, and for those that don't, you might be watching this going, what is this dairy stuff? Donald Trump pointed this out. Canada has up to 400% tariffs on American dairy going into Canada. There are carve-outs under the USMCA to have some go in, but this is like they have quotas, and these quotas are actually bought and sold in the gray market, and it's so that they can get cheap American milk and basically form a monopoly in Canada. It's really unbelievable how it works. It's cronyism at its worst. Under the guise of socialist price controls and supply management. It's unbelievable. It's a cartel, for lack of a better word. It is the dairy cartel. That's what is there. Now they came to the table saying no negotiations. Now people will challenge me on this and say, Clyde, nobody's ever paid the 400% tariff. That's right. It's called a barrier to entry. If you put a 400% tariff on an item, nobody will pay that because they just won't bring their products in. And that's exactly what the purpose of it is. So when you say that, no, they never pay that tariff, that's a falsehood. And I get a community note on my video for this. That's exactly what's going on. Now, they went even further. They went all the way to the parliament, and they brought this through. And this went through unanimously. This is how bad Canadian politicians are on trade negotiations. This went through unanimously just back in June. And what is this bill? It's the shortest bill you'll ever read. It puts into foreign affairs and foreign negotiations that they're not even legally allowed to put this supply management on the table. They're not even allowed to negotiate it. They've made it a law that Canada cannot even discuss dairy negotiations with trade when it comes to the United States. So I just had to throw this out there. I had to throw this out there because fools like this, people like this are out there representing Canadians, representing the opinion of Canadians all the time. And this is just ridiculous. The behavior of these idiots, the gall, the absolute gall to go out and try to guilt trip Americans into behaving a certain way with Canada, carving out exceptions for bad behavior, all this stuff is just unbelievable. And I think Tim Pool was absolutely correct on this one. I think he was even too nice to this guy as he was throwing this crap out there. Tim Pool, if you want to reach out, I'd love to come on your show. I'd come on and talk about Canada-US trade relations anytime. This is just unbelievable that this is the kind of representation that we get in the United States. But I'd love to leave this one with you guys. What do you think about all of this, everything that was discussed in this? Am I wrong? Is that guy wrong? Is Tim Pool wrong? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.